Simpson Thomas and Associates ਤੋਂ ਅੱਜ ਸਾਡੇ ਸਟੂਡੀਓਜ਼ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਆਏ ਹਨ ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਜਾਣੇ ਪਛਾਣੇ ਬਰਨੀ ਸਿੰਪਸਨ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕਿ ਸਾਊਦੀ ਅਰੇਬੀਆ ਜੋਰਡਨ ਅਤੇ ਇਜ਼ਰਾਈਲ ਦੀ ਟੂਰ ਕਰਕੇ ਆਏ ਹਨ ਔਰ ਨਾਲ ਦੀ ਨਾਲ ਜੋ ਸੈੱਲ ਫੋਨਸ ਦਾ ਨਵਾਂ ਲੀਗਲ ਸਿਸਟਮ ਨਿਕਲਿਆ ਹੈ ਜਨਵਰੀ ਤੋਂ ਜੋ ਸ਼ੁਰੂ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਜੋ ਲਾਅ ਨਿਕਲਿਆ ਹੈ ਸੈੱਲ ਫੋਨਸ ਬਾਰੇ ਉਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਵੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਾਣਕਾਰੀ ਆਪ ਜੀ ਨੂੰ ਦੇਵਾਂਗੇ ਆਓ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਸਵਾਗਤ ਕਰੀਏ ਪੰਜਾਬੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਫਾਈਲ ਸਟੂਡੀਓਜ਼ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬਰਨੀ ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ
ਸਤਿ ਸ਼੍ਰੀ ਅਕਾਲ
or every time you come to the studio I think the first thing you like to do is say sat shri akal to us.
That's the only thing I can say other than shukriya and munda and kudi.
I know but you've got a good range of vocabulary there Punjabi vocabulary.
Well, I'm perfecting that. I've had 30 years to do it. Right. First of all I want to congratulate you for making the cover of South Asian newspaper. The full cover, my God.
Thank you, Bernie.
And that was a beautiful article.
And there are a lot of papers, print media that
20th anniversary.
Exactly. 20 years in media, Bernie.
Oh, my God.
Been a long time.
Yeah.
Not long as you, though.
Not as long as me
ICBC.
being in law, but, which is 40 years.
Right.
But, yeah.
Let me talk about your trip, first of all. You've always done exciting things, and then after that, you come to the studio, we talk about it.
Yeah.
You have just recently gone to Saudi Arabia, Israel, and Jordan.
That's right.
Tell us a little bit about your trip there.
Well, the trip to Saudi Arabia, it has to be the country in the world which is least attractive or least accepting to tourists. I went with a group, the Canada Arab Business Council. And can you imagine being in a city of 5 million people, whatever it is, in Riyadh, which is the capital, for 3 days and not seeing the face of a woman?
Wow.
Walk in the streets and they had their veils on. And even if you look at the slits of their eyes, the religious police will be after you.
Wow.
And, some of your listeners may be aware that there's 2 Canadian boys who are about to be beheaded in Chop Chop Square. That's actually what they call it when they behead people, Chop Chop Square in Riyadh. And I don't want to comment on their crime because I don't know that much about the crime, but they're about to be beheaded. And I was at a dinner with, sitting next to me was a cabinet member in Saudi Arabia, and to my left was Canada's ambassador to Saudi Arabia. And we were speaking to this cabinet member about the beheading and how they should not behead this person. They want good relations with Canada and trade relations, and he didn't even know what we were talking about. Wow. This is a very explosive situation in Saudi Arabia with Iran. And Israel, of course, is also a powder keg. And Jordan, I was very pleased to be there. I've been there to Jordan many times. And a little project that I've had on the side was to the development of a free trade agreement. And I'm pleased to say that that's now been concluded between Canada and Jordan. Yeah.
Wow.
But I could spend hours on that trip. But,
you do a lot of exciting things other than being an ICBC lawyer. Let's talk about the
Which is probably the most exciting thing that I do. Yeah.
So let's talk about the cell phones and its effect on driving.
Well,
not everybody can multitask, be on the cell phone and drive at the same time.
That's right. There are the rare individuals, and I won't mention the name, but she is a radio announcer on one of our most popular programs, who went after Kashid because of the legislation that he introduced and said this was archaic legislation, the cell phones. But she's a phenomenal woman and she can multitask. But the vast majority of us cannot multitask.
Right.
Let me just tell you what happens when a person becomes over 50 or 55. Chances are a person over 55 is on 4 or 5 medications for blood pressure, for diabetes, for pain, let's say taking Tylenol, 3 for high cholesterol. 2 or 3 of those 5 medications affect you cognitively. In other words, your ability to react quickly. You add to that the terrible weather that we had a couple of weeks ago. Right. You add to that the cell phones, if you're on a cell phone, and the text messaging. You're at an extremely high risk to have an accident.
Right. And I think weather, Bernie, is one of the bigger factors
that's right.
as well.
That's
We've had a lot of rain. There's hardly any visibility.
I was looking out my office the other day, and I was seeing these semi-tractor trailers going by. Actually, it wasn't my office, it was somebody else's office, and going at like 100 kilometers an hour, and cars going 100 kilometers an hour. It was the worst weather I've ever experienced in terms of the rain. And it's almost as if they were driving in the nice weather that we're having today.
Right.
You must be careful. We are entering a very, very difficult time in terms of the weather, and you must make sure your vehicle is in good mechanical shape. or else you're just asking for trouble, especially if you're over 50, 55 and you're taking those medications.
Even simple Tylenol can have
even stuff that you buy over the counter. You'd be surprised how that can affect you. Let's say an antihistamine, which you can buy over the counter, that will make you drowsy. So you must be very, and the sad thing is that many of the older Indo-Canadians, so this is a message to the mundas and kuris who have fathers or grandfathers or grandmothers who can't read English. There's warnings on those pills. This can cause drowsiness, this can cause, you know, and you should not operate machinery when you take it. So you must interpret this for your elders to make sure they understand the implications of this. And of course, never mix this type of medication with drinking, with alcohol.
Bernie, let's go to a situation which happened a couple of weeks ago with Tiger Woods. Even if you have an argument with your family, with your wife, with your partner, it's risky to drive.
Well, let me tell you about that. I had to smile. There's probably nobody who's in more control of themselves than Tiger Woods. I mean, how do you become the world's best golfer?
Right.
In the history of golfing, you have to have control. But obviously, he had a little domestic dispute there. The fact that his wife went after him right afterwards with Big Bertha, you know, the golf club, which, you know, shows, and obviously the evidence came out that he did have some domestic issues. And it just goes to show you, you can be even a Tiger Woods, but if you get into a fight with your wife, or your husband, or your children, you're going to bring it into the car with you, that emotional upset. And if you're going to have that fight in the car, you can imagine how high risk you are. You add to that the fact if you're over 55 and taking the medication on the cell phone in bad weather, you're looking for trouble.
Right.
Yeah.
It's December now, 2009. Time is flying. How was your year this year as an ICBC lawyer, as you know, your firm? Simpson.
It's been undoubtedly the best year we've ever had. The volume is up probably 15% over the year before. Right. We've had to expand. We're taking over office space on our floor. Unfortunately, it's office space of a close friend of mine who works for ICBC, but we had to exercise our right of first refusal. And the firm has had an outstanding success. And you know, we owe this to our support staff. This morning we had a group picture of all the Indo-Canadian secretaries. And you know what it's like to see 15 Indo-Canadian girls, you know, various ages, and how they mix with each other. And of course, we just don't have Indo-Canadian secretaries or legal administrators, they call them now. We have Chinese, we have Vietnamese, we have Korean. But by and far, the largest group is the Indo-Canadian girls.
And I do want to thank you, Bernie, because I know a lot of the most complicated cases in the South Asian community are looked after by your own company, your own firm.
That's true.
And right now we're approaching Christmas. There's going to be a lot of Christmas parties going on. What is your message?
Well, I just want you to remember that if you've been drinking and if you're at fault for an accident, you're finished. Yeah, the police obviously will charge you, they may put you into jail, but you'll lose all your assets because the ICBC will not insure you. So obviously you should not drink, you should have a designated driver. This is the worst time of year. Yeah, the fact that the older people are not all that well who are driving, the fact that there's drinking going on, maybe you don't drink, but the person who's driving towards you could be drinking, and the weather, you know, and you must be very, very careful. That goes without saying. You know, you're not only putting your life at risk, but you're putting your loved one's life at risk.
Right.
You know, we have cases where people have been quadriplegics. Can you imagine the demands on your family to look after a quadriplegic, if you're a quadriplegic? Right. The demand on your wife, the demand on your children. Not only are you shattering your own life if you act irresponsible, but you're shattering the lives of your loved ones. So please, please be careful. I'd rather that you don't come into my office, believe me. I'd be one of the happy, maybe my staff might not be so happy, but I'd be one of the happiest people in the community if our practice tomorrow could shut down and not have any clients at all. You know, as I say, my staff might not agree with me. You know.
Right. But we're approaching 2010, the Olympics year, Bernie. On behalf of Punjabi World Television, wish you a very, very happy New Year.
Good. Shukriya. Thank you.